Sorry to interrupt, but I can't hear anything. Hello? I still can't hear anything, but I don't know what's going on. My volume is all the way up, so I'm confused.
You're recording.
Okay, good evening. We'll get started again. You can hear now, Sarah?
Yep.
Okay, great. My name's Deb Gray Eagle. I live here in Fort Yates. My husband is Linus Gray Eagle. I'm going to be presenting tonight on herbal first aid and home remedies, and it'll be in two parts. Tonight, we're going to talk about the different methods for getting the herbs and their constituents or their medicine into us or on us or to be utilized. And we'll be talking about some of the properties of the different herbs, especially local ones. And then tomorrow night, we'll be making things for our own first aid kits. So, but we'll be referring to them this evening as well. So Jen Martell is going to be a little bit late. She had a meeting. And so Ron Martell is here doing the technology and the filming. Thank God for him. So we'll do the best we can to get everything that you need. There is a handout that goes with the workshop, and we're not sure how to do the link. So when Jen gets here or by the end of the workshop, we'll have that link to you. In the meantime, I'll give my email so you can always request it there. And when the class is over, if nothing else, I'll email it to you. Can you zoom in on that, Ron, or is that too hard to do? My email is Deb Gray Eagle, DebGrayeagle @gmail.com. I'll put that up again later, and it's on the handout too. If you have any questions later on, but we'll make sure that anybody that attends the workshop will get that link for the handout. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them, I guess, in the chat, right, Ron? Or however you can ask it, and we'll do the best we can till Jen gets here. Okay, so the first method we're going to talk about is making a poultice, which is basically where you mash either the fresh herbs or the dried ones with a little water. You make a mash and you put that right onto your skin. You could use that for, say, a boil or a wound, a gash, something that you want to get healing right into. You could do it on a sprained ankle, put those mashed herbs on it. I'll demonstrate a sample. Let's suppose that I had this big old sore on my arm, and it looked like maybe it might be getting infected, but I don't have a fever. It's not an emergency. Like all these little things we're going to talk about tonight are things to do when it's not a big emergency, where you could have a little time, you're feeling a little nauseous. What could you do? What tea could you drink? Maybe one of your kids has an infected mosquito bite. See what you can do. And if they get a fever from it or something more serious, then you'd go to the emergency room. Okay, this is plantain, some dried plantain, which has been soaking. Within another week or two, we're going to have plantain growing all over here on Standing Rock. It's this is a picture of it. It's when I was a kid, we used to call it froggy fiddles because the leaves are kind of broad, wide, and the veins are like parallel. And so when we were kids, we used to take the leaf material from between the veins out, and it would look kind of like a fiddle, like the strings on a fiddle. So we called them froggy fiddles. We didn't know it as plantain. But anyway, so that's a really good, they call it the green bandage in a lot of herbal sources and stuff. You could even just take a leaf of plantain, just pick it. It grows kind of where dandelions grow, kind of open areas, maybe a little bit more shady, like on the north side of my house. I have a lot. It grows up in sidewalks. It grows just about anywhere. So anyway, that's one plant that's super for healing. You can make tea from it. You can make poultices, compresses, some of the other things we'll be talking about too. But it's a really handy one. If you're just, well, for an example, I was out gardening with my grandson one night last summer. And all of a sudden I looked at him and he had these big welts from mosquito bites all over his legs. And he was like, Grandma, I'm really itching. And I said, well, come here, let me show you. And so we each got a plantain leaf. I said, chew it up. And so he chewed it and we slapped it on a mosquito bite. I put mine on and we did that. And he was like, and I said, this will take the itch away. Well, at first he's telling me it didn't, but we finally got all his big welts he had, covered them with spit poultices, you call it, about the simplest one you can make. We got them covered and he was telling me it didn't work. Well, we finished putting our tools away and he never even mentioned those mosquito bites again the rest of the night. And I didn't bring it up because I knew it had worked, but he learned that too. So the next time I saw him, I was like, yeah, how'd that work? And he goes, it must have worked, Grandma, because. Okay, I'm going to take a big glob of this plantain. I'm going to slap it on this pretend sore. One way to kind of keep it localized is, it's a little hard when you're doing it on yourself, but you can use saran wrap or cling wrap. And then you could use an ace bandage or a piece of muslin or some kind of cloth. Use some kind of ace bandage or something like that to kind of keep it on and keep it in place. Something like that. I'd say at least 20 minutes, but if you left it on for hours, it would be just as good. And what that plantain will do is to draw out any infection. It will help to start to close a wound. It will take away pain, surface pain from that. Would take away itch if it was like a bee sting or something like that. It's really a great herb to have, and it's all over the place. Grows all over. So that's the basics of a poultice, but you could put one on any part of your body that you can wrap, pretty much. I think we'll go on to a compress. Compresses are not quite as messy, but there's just something, this works really well. So this is going to be a compress, and it's going to be made with lavender And this was boiled, the water was boiled before class and the lavender put in. So it's what it's doing is kind of making a strong tea. But we're going to strain it. Smell that lavender, Ron?
Mhm.
Okay. Now lavender is good for headaches, for skin conditions. If you have a rash or even sunburn, anything like that, any skin conditions, as well as that lavender is great for headaches. So this is just a flannel cloth. It's a little bit hot still. This is still a little bit hot, so I'm just going to add some cold water so I can put my hands in it. So then you soak your cloth. Flannel or cotton cloth is good to use. And if you join us tomorrow, you're one of the ones getting the kits. You're going to have a flannel cloth in your kit. One of these. It's kind of a handy size. I think it's 12 by 18. Soak it really good. Okay. Now, if suppose you have a tension type of headache, you could take this and put it right around your neck, warm as you can stand it, and just let that penetrate and try to relax and let that lavender work. If maybe you have a migraine type of headache or a hot or like a pulsing kind of headache, more on the front, you could cool this lavender tea and then make a compress for your forehead. If you have young children, sometimes, you know, they just get a bellyache or some nausea. You could do maybe chamomile tea or peppermint tea, an infusion like that, and you could put this right over their little tummy. If you want to keep it warm, you could cover it with I don't want to put it on my shirt, but you could put it on their tummy, cover it with a towel, and then put a hot water bottle or a heating pad on top of that and keep it warm. And that would be a good way to penetrate. Or any other kind of injury where you want to keep the compress warm. That works pretty good. Okay, and then sometimes you switch back and forth with cold and heat, like say for a sprained ankle, sometimes you start with the ice, because when you put or ice or the cold compress, you could put the compress on an ice bag on top of it. And that when you do cold, it reduces swelling and inflammation. And then later you might want to switch it to a warm one and get that circulation going. So you can do them warm or cold. And I think the herbal term when you do hot and cold is a fomentation. So just another word. But okay, so then another herbal way to use herbs. This is a sage tea that you can use. You could spray it maybe on a sunburn or a rash, or I put a little sea salt in it. You could do as a throat spray. Sage and salt makes a really good throat spray. It's kind of drying in it, and it can work in a sore throat. So that's another, and this is just a little 2-ounce spray bottle. So real handy to have, because you could even do like calendula to spray on skin if kids get, poison ivy. It's another thing that would be nice to spray on, because, you know, sometimes it's itchy, but you could do the spray. So in your first aid kits, you're going to get a 2-ounce spray bottle, and it's plastic so that it won't break if you're using it around children. Okay, so that's a spray or an herbal wash, either one. If you had a wound, say you had a gash and or an abrasion, and you had one of your herbal teas in here, you could spray that and wash the whole wound out without having to touch it if it's hurting. So that's another handy thing. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is an herbal bath. And basically, we're going to make a big tea bag that you can put right in your bathtub. And everybody gets one of these muslin, it's like a big tea bag, muslin bag. For example, we're going to use lemon balm. It's a very relaxing herb, calming as well as healing. So I use about a half a cup of an herb, in this case, lemon balm. And here we have oatmeal. Use about a half a cup of oats. The reason for the oats is that they are kind of, they have like a mucilage in them, and they will, that milkiness will come out in your bath water and just it'll just smooth over your skin and help with any rashes or itches. It's just very moisturizing for skin. So for an herbal bath, I said it's like a big tea bag for your bathtub. You could take this bag. What I like to do is just hang it over the faucet, turn the water on as hot as it'll go, so it runs through this bag. And then when your bath water is as full as you want it, then turn the water off, let it cool just enough so you can get in. You want to get in as warm as possible. And then you can take this off. It'll swell. That's why I didn't fill it completely, because it will swell. But you can use this as your scrubby. And so that herb will be in the water. You'll see the bath water will kind of look like a cup of tea. And then all that good oat milk will come out, and you can, soften your skin with it. And this can be reused. When you're done, just rinse it out and you can use it again. Any questions so far? Like I said, these are all on the handout. So if you can't remember, you can always go back to the handout and look it up. Okay, the next way that we can use herbs at home is an herbal foot soap, which is kind of like the herbal bath, except that you're making a soap for your feet. You could use your muslin bag. That would work if you don't want to get the herb on your feet, whatever. Or you could just put it right in the water and let the herbs float around and, rinse it out after. Either way, I like a peppermint foot soap. Throw your peppermint in here and maybe some Epsom salts with it, or some sea salt or something like that. Epsom salts are nice because you get the magnesium and that absorbs through the bottom of your feet. And whatever you do for your feet, it just kind of does good for the rest of your body. One thing I've read, I don't get migraines, thank God, but I read that if you do get migraines, one suggestion is to make a warm lavender soap for your feet. Of course, lavender is good for headaches. So put your feet in a warm, or as warm as you can stand it, foot soak, and then put a cold pack on your head and just rest. The reason that will work is because the hot water is pulling your circulation, opening up circulation in your feet. The cold is cutting down the swelling of those arteries or veins or whatever it is that causes the migraine. So that's kind of like directing and getting your circulation out of your head and down to your feet, if that makes sense. So if you get migraines, you might try that. And I'd love to know how that works. I've suggested it to a couple of people, but I haven't heard if it worked. All right, I think we'll go on to an herbal steam. So we have some water that's been heated. It doesn't have to be boiling, just warm enough to make steam. And there's already some cedar in here, but we're going to add a little bit more so you can see what that looks like. Cedar is very good for upper respiratory problems, for opening up the lungs and the nose, clearing out mucus, things like that. So we're going to, there's some in here already, adding some more. You would just let that infuse a little bit, and then to get the most benefit from it, you can tent your head and breathe in the vapors. Now my glasses are fucked up. That lets that steam just get into your system. It's also real good for your face too, by the way. But so there's that. If you have young children, say elementary age, you could do this, but you'd want to be right there. My grandson's was 9 and he had some congestion, and so I set him up with the tent. And after a couple of minutes, he goes, "Grandma, this is really hot." And he took that towel down. His little face was just red. And I felt so bad because it really should have been taken off. I should have been watching closer. So just as a warning, if you're doing it with children, be sure to watch them and make sure that it doesn't get too hot for them and their face isn't too close. The other thing you could do is if you have some essential oils, like say for an adult, eucalyptus or peppermint or something like that, that also opens the lungs, 1 drop, 2 drops is all you need. And you can do the same exact thing with a hot pan of water. Okay. I'm going to take this poultice off. Look at that. It's just about gone. The sore's all healed. Anyway, so you could do that as many times as you want with a poultice, or use it for different things. Okay, one of your most basic things to make with herbs is a tea, also known as an infusion, a water infusion. And basically, when you make a tea, an infusion is when you make a tea with a leaf or the aerial parts of plants, like the leaves, the flowers, maybe light stems, things like that. So say like peppermint leaves, you could put in either in a bag or just your loose herbs, if you have it like a tea ball or something, and pour your hot water, your boiling water over it, and then you want to let it steep for 5 minutes or so. I always try to cover. It's good to cover your cup when you're steeping. It keeps those volatile oils in, and it also keeps it warm. I don't like cold tea, but you could always reheat it. But more than anything, to keep those oils, those volatile healing oils that are being steeped out of the leaves in the tea. So that's a hot infusion, or basically just a water tea. The other way to make tea is for like if you have the roots or the heavier parts of plants, bark or berries or seeds, seedy parts of plants. But with that, you would boil your water, but you would put your herbs right into the saucepan with the water, and you'd simmer it, not boil it hard, but simmer it, probably for at least 20 minutes to get the constituents and stuff, the medicine out of those heavier kinds of plants. And so that's called a decoction, just for knowledge's sake. But that would be like dandelion roots or things like that that are a little bit heavier. So those are 2 ways of making tea. Then we have our herbal syrups, and that's like your elderberry syrup. I think we've had a lot of classes on making that, where you simmer your elderberries and you add your spices, your cinnamon or your cloves and different things like that. And you boil it down to half, and then you strain it, and then you add that much raw honey to it, is what you've got boiled down. So one to one. But you could do that with ginger root. You could do that with, there's other plants too that you can make syrups out of. Ginger is another good one for breaking up phlegm and clearing lungs or noses. Okay, then we are to infused oils. Now, when you do an infused oil, and we've done this, if any of you have tuned into some of these salve making and lip balm workshops that we've done in the past few months, you've seen that. So, but we're doing an ear oil with mullein flowers, and this is still infusing. You can kind of see the little flowers floating in there. When you make an infused oil, you fill up your jar about halfway with your dried plant part. In this case, it's dried mullein flowers, which are very good for earaches, things with the ears and congestion. And then the rest of it was filled up with organic olive oil, really good olive oil. And you can infuse 2 ways. The quick way is to set this jar in a crock pot set on only warm, not low, just warm, barely warm, with a couple inches of water, and let that sit for a few hours warming. That's a quicker way to make it infuse. Or you could just take this and let it sit on top of your fridge or someplace for 2 weeks. So I wanted to do it the kind of the long way because I think these flowers are very delicate, and I didn't want to heat them too much. I wanted to just give it more time.
What do the flowers look like?
In the summertime, mullein is that, they call that plant camper's toilet paper. It has really fuzzy leaves. And the first year it just gets a whorl, which is like almost like a wreath type of thing with all the leaves. The second year it spikes, it's a spike. And at the top of that spike are all those little yellow flowers. And even the flowers you can see are a little bit fuzzy. So it's all those flower buds. So tomorrow night, we're going to strain this, and then we're going to fill up little dropper bottles with the ear oil. So you'll have a mullein infused ear oil, which some herbalists say you can put it right into the ear. I'm saying, to be on the safe side, put it all around and in the opening of the ear, and just massage it even down into the lymph area. And then a nice thing to do is to put warmth on that and see if you get relief. A lot of herbalists say you can put it in the ear. I just don't. I'm not going to take that responsibility. I'd rather err on the safe side. But Ron, I just got to pull one thing out of this box. Sorry. We're also going to make tomorrow night a rice pack. And you could use this, you could put this, it's like a pocket, you're going to put your rice in it, we'll stitch it up. And then you could put this in the microwave, probably 30 seconds to a minute to warm that rice. And then that could be put over the ear. Okay. This pack could be put in your freezer or your refrigerator and used cold on an Owie too. So, but you'll make these tomorrow night, and that'll be part of your first aid kit too. So what you could do, you could infuse a lot of different things. During the biggest part of the COVID, we had a workshop here, and we used cedar, the Western cedar and juniper, and we made the infused oil. In this case, because those are a little bit harder to break down, because I think the juniper berries are really like a cone, and the cedar, as you can see, is kind of tough. So we did that like for a couple days in the crock pot on low. warm, sorry. And then we use that, and then we put beeswax with it and some essential oils, and we made chest salve, you know, for people that were suffering with COVID to help open up lungs. So it was kind of like a homemade Vicks vapor rub. And what else? Also with the infused oil, I'm going to give this to everybody that does their kit, because we don't have time in the parameters of the class to do another salve. But this is like we did before. You infuse, we did calendula and lemon balm, which are both really good skin soothers and healers. We did that and then strained it, used that oil, melted beeswax in it. And then as it cooled a little bit, we added tea tree, lavender, geranium, and thyme essential oils. Those are all good for skin, for healing skin. And what we did with a lot of these, which you're going to be getting, is we gave them to healthcare workers that were on front lines because their hands were.
Can you open it?
Oh yeah. Their hands were just from all the hand washing and the sanitizer. I knew quite a few healthcare workers that this just would overnight take the redness and the chafing out. But this can be used. I'm not saying it's just for that, but oh gee, my grandson was getting eczema for a while, and so we would use this skin salve on him, and it didn't totally eliminate the eczema, but it took the itch and the soreness and the where the skin was broken from scratching. It cleared that up. He'd still have a little dryness because we couldn't figure out what the cause of the eczema was, but this took care of the symptoms of it. Any kind of, you know, any skin type of things. You could even put this on like a bug bite or something too. But all skin, it's like a super skin salve. So the recipe for making the oils, for making the infused oil, and for making the salve are in the handout. So those are all the methods that we can use with the different herbs. There's a list in the handout of some of the common herbs, especially some of the ones that grow right around us here on Standing Rock. We could talk about a few of them. I won't go through all the details, but you'll see that there's a lot that are good for skin things or that are good for respiratory, all kinds of stuff. So we already did plantain. Chamomile is another one. I don't have pictures of all of them, but chamomile is another herb. It's anti-inflammatory, relaxing. It's good for irritated skin. People have used it for an eye compress, like for pink eye or just irritated eyes. You could make your chamomile tea type of thing, dip your cloth in it, and then put that compress over your eyes. So around here we have chickweed and cleavers. Those are all like spring herbs, or actually most people call them weeds, but we know them as being medicine plants. Dandelions will be coming up, or here's a picture of cleavers. I think they also call it bedstraw. Dandelions will be up soon. I think everybody knows dandelions. Dandelions are a great spring tonic. I've seen when I lived in the East, the older Italian ladies will be out first thing in the spring along, you'd see them out in the fields picking the dandelions, first thing, getting those shoots, and excuse me, they would use them as a spring tonic. They'd make teas and stuff with them, and that would they thought it would make your blood healthy. Lavender is another one. Now that doesn't grow wild around here, but a lot of people have it in their gardens. Lavender is great for headaches and stress and tension, but it's also wonderful for skin things. You know, anything with skin, even burns or even canker sores, anything like that. Then there's the lemon balm, which is what we use. This is dried, but it's lemon balm's in the mint family, and I have this growing. It grows very nicely around here. I have right outside my door, I have lemon balm. It just smells beautiful. And that's another anti-anxiety type of plant. It's good for skin, and it's especially good for herpes. Yeah, call it canker sores. Mullein, which is the one that we're using the flowers for our infused oil. Mullein's good for anything upper respiratory, for asthma, and especially for earaches. And then there's nettles, which grow abundantly around here if you know where to get them. It's not something like I have on my yard, but in kind of more woodsy, damper, more fertile soil, they grow around here. You can eat them in the spring. They're a tonic herb. They're really rich in nutrients. So when they're dried, you can use it as a tea for all kinds of vitamins and minerals. Really good for allergies and hay fever this time of year. Also for skin ailments like the eczema, or for liver problems even. Just a real widely used herb. Again, it grows on Standing Rock. And I know we have clover around here. I'm not sure if we have the red clover or just the white. I know we have white, and then I think we have a yellow one too. I'm not sure if they're the exact same, what would you call it? Chemical constituents or medicines in them. But red clover, you can get it in a health food store. It is a plant that grows probably in North Dakota, but maybe not right here on Standing Rock. So this one's also rich in minerals. It's really good for kids' respiratory problems, for coughs and colds. It's a good detox herb. So there's that. Peppermint or any of the mint family are good again for headaches, nausea, stomach aches, things like that. And then itchy skin different things, and congestion. So peppermint, red clover, sage. Sage is another one. I don't have a picture, but it's a good digestive aid. It's good for the liver, helps with colds and sore throats. Thyme is another one. It's not a wild plant, but it grows in a lot of the herb parts of our gardens and things. It's easy to get. Also, they sell it in the grocery store. That's a good stimulant for the immune system, for lung problems, for coughs and sore throats and colds. Thyme, you could even use like the tea, make a compress and put it on a child's chest if they're having congestion. Not necessarily a child, anybody's, but I think I tend to think about it for kids. And then the last one is yarrow. And that grows pretty much wild. It was growing in my yard when I came here. I don't know if it might have been planted at one time, but it takes off, it grows. And yarrow is such a good plant for stopping bleeding. It's an antiseptic, an astringent. It promotes tissue repair. It's good for healing wounds. And like I said, it stops bleeding. And we're going to be making up little tins, and we're going to use a mortar and pestle. We're going to grind up some yarrow leaves tomorrow night, and we're going to put them into little half-ounce little tins, and then you'll have it for a nosebleed or for a cut or something. I learned a lot of herbal stuff from Linda Black Elk, and she told a story of being out with a class or with some people, and somebody got cut really bad on barbed wire out in the middle of nowhere, but there was yarrow growing around, and so they put yarrow on that person's bleeding and stopped it, and they got into the emergency room, and the doctor was asking what they used to stop that bleeding, you know. And I just think that's just those kind of stories I just love. It's like folk healing, or just knowing what the creator put around you that you can use, you know, for your family.
Do you have any questions, Sarah? Nope.
Okay. Maybe what I'll do, I'm just going to grab this out from underneath you, and I'll talk about some of the things we're going to do for tomorrow night that we'll be making for be taking home. So the first 5 are going to get these storage boxes, kind of the size of a shoebox. You'll get the compress cloth. It's flannel, so you could use that for compresses. You'll get the 2-ounce spray bottle, which you can use for a wash, for a sore throat spray, you know, anything. Everybody will get a red washcloth. Now, I learned this one from a daycare provider out in Connecticut. She always had a red washcloth right next to her sink. She ran a daycare. You know, kids are always getting cuts and scrapes or a nosebleed or anything. And she said, I always have a red washcloth because I'll wet this and use it and they don't see the blood. You know how kids get scared when they see blood? And of course, faces are great for bleeding. You know, they really, it looks bad and it's not that bad, you know, or skin knee, anything. So she would always tell me, use a red washcloth and they won't see all the blood. And I thought that's a good hint, and we'll have our red washcloths too. Everybody will get a tube of the Aloe Vera Gel, which is great for sunburns, or, I mean, I think of it for sunburns, but you could use it on any kind of wound care. This is just pure Aloe Vera Gel. You get a little, this will be the tin with the yarrow, and we'll be filling those up tomorrow night. Here's the muslin bags for your bath tea or for your foot soak. We're going to make an herbal body powder too tomorrow night. And this is made with kaolin clay, which is a mineral clay, has its own healing properties, arrowroot powder, and plantain powder. Remember, plantain is that one I used for the poultice, has all kinds of healing property. It closes up wounds, it pulls out infection. This would be great for diaper rash, for any kind of chafing. You might even use it like if you had an oozing poison ivy after you've cleaned it and gotten any extra excess oils from the poison ivy off. This might dry up some blisters, and I'll just show you. You know, there's lawsuits now, I think, with was it Johnson & Johnson that made the talc powder, the baby powder that everybody used to throw all over them, and now they're finding women have cancers and things from that. But this is just an all natural powder that you could use on your little baby bums or your body if you have, you know, areas that chafe. So we'll be making, these are 4-ounce spice bottles. We'll be doing it in that, so that again, you have a plastic bottle that won't break, and you could always refill it when you're ready for more. So we'll make those tomorrow night. Another thing we'll make, this is what they call a roller bottle. And next week, I'll be doing a class on aromatherapy and essential oils, and we'll be making some of these little roller bottles. You have, okay. What we'll be doing is we're going to make just one particular. If you come to the aromatherapy class, you'll have choices of what to make. But this is what I call the Owies and Itches blend. And what we'll be doing is we'll be using some essential oils. We'll use lavender, peppermint, and tea tree, a few drops of each. And then we'll fill the rest of it with fractionated coconut oil, and then mix it up, pop the little roller. There's like a little roller ball that goes in the top. And you mix that up. And this is great for bug bites. You could put it on a scrape, but I was going to say if you use it on a scrape, I would probably wash your hands and put it on your finger and then put it on the scrape. Or if you use it directly on something like that, you want to clean your roller off after. But those 3 essential oils are really good for taking the itch out, for healing it, making swelling go down, and kids love these. So this would be something for the summer to have in your kit too. Said before, we'll be doing the earache oil. This earache oil, though, it will put on the labels. You always label your bottles so you know what's in it and when you made it. But these are good for a good 6 months and probably should be kept in the refrigerator. But we'll talk about that tomorrow night. Rice pack, you'll make that tomorrow night. Oh, and then the other thing we're gonna do tomorrow night is, but I'm gonna take a quick walk. We're gonna make up some small bags of different herbs that would be good to have on hand. Maybe you have some of your own, but these would get you started. You could have a bag of lemon balm and we'll label it and what it's good for. Calendula flowers. These are not wild, but they're like marigold family and lots of healing value to them. So we'll send some of those. You could make an infused oil with them. You could make tea. Just about all those things we did tonight, compresses. You could look up the properties of each one and then know what you can use them for. And we'll do peppermint leaf. And we'll do stinging nettles. Of course, when they're dry, you don't have the stinging part. They don't sting anymore. So you'll be able to make up a bag and label these and put down what they're good for and add them to your kit too. So tune in tomorrow night because our hour is just about up. If anybody has any questions, we can take them. And I'm going to do my email again so you can get a handout.
Did you get it?
All right, so tomorrow night we'll be making things, we'll demonstrate. If you're not here or are coming after, we'll demonstrate on the Zoom doing all the things. And then you'll have your handout by then too. And then if you can come after the class, I think Jen said the first 5 that she had signed up would get the first aid kit, herbal first aid kit. Any questions?
Nope.
All right, we have just a couple minutes. I can just talk, I won't go through them all, but in the handout, I tried to list what I thought would be some common things in our homes that we might treat our families for. Anxiety, bruises, sprains, strains, minor burns, of course, anything serious you'd transport to a hospital, cough and cold, nosebleeds, earaches, low-grade fevers, headaches, head lice. Let's talk about that one real quick. Lavender or apple cider vinegar is really good to use. And even if you mix some salt, dilute some salt with it, that's really good for loosening the glue that the knits use to attach to the hair. So that's because what's happening, I guess, a lot of times now, the chemicals and stuff that they've been selling, lice are getting, we call it resistant to them. So we need some like natural things to use instead of getting stronger chemicals. And so apple cider vinegar and or salt to loosen the knits and to kill them. And then tea tree or lavender essential oil, either of those essential oils. And just to differentiate the difference between an infused oil, which is where you have the herb in it, and the essential oils, which you can buy in like health food stores. This is a very concentrated plant material. So in other words, I'm not sure the exact, but say it would take bushels of lavender to extract the essential oil out of it. So it's very concentrated. Whereas if you have just lavender with the oil, you still have the plant, but this is the super concentrated. So if you only need a couple drops when you use it. But if you mix that with a carrier oil, which is like your olive oil or an almond oil or something, mix that and then put that on the person's head, that will suffocate the lice. If you put a shower cap over and leave it overnight, that'll suffocate them. And so between the two things, with the apple cider vinegar to get the nits off and then to kill the lice, that should be pretty effective. But you'd want to do it like, again, in 2 weeks, 10 days, 2 weeks, just in case you missed any, and get them again. But that's a handy thing with kids going back to school more and more. kind of covered just some ideas, and this is just a little bit of, you know, some things that you could do that skin irritations, cold sores, diaper rash, eczema, insect bites, poison ivy, sores or splinters, even sunburn, sore throat. So some ideas on how you'd use the different plants that you're going to be taking and ways that you might use them. So tomorrow night we'll be make and take. And then you might want to add to your first aid kit adhesive strips, you know, Band-Aids or gauze and tape, small scissors, tweezers, and any essential oils that you pick up. They keep, as long as they're in a cool place, the essential oils will keep for a couple years. So anyway, message me if you want to get the handout, and then tomorrow night we'll have the link because Jen will be here then and we'll be able to get that out to everybody. So any questions? Okay. Thanks. I don't know if you were the only one, Sarah, but thanks for attending.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good night. Hope to see you tomorrow night.
You too.
Okay. Do I hit end? End all meeting for all.